Welcome to Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show. This is powered by SportsMemo.com, WagerTalk.com, and the Predictive Playbook Caster shows. Welcome to the show, Jesse Schule. It's the second time today. We did an excellent NFL show that will be up probably while we're doing this show. And we have three good bets in there. Also, Dr. Chuck has contributed a pick as well. And, our threesome's doing pretty good. We were 3-0 in the college show, and 4-2 overall. So that was a good week and was a good bounce back from the double bogey that we had in week 7 of the NFL season. But we're always forward looking here, and we're going to start things out here with the college football rankings. And already, Jesse, I'm not at all enamored with that selection process. I can't understand why they would put Alabama. There's no forward thinking in it. You don't put Alabama second when Georgia and Alabama will probably play each other for the SEC championship. So what happens then if Alabama somehow knocks off Georgia, which I don't think anybody's going to stop Georgia. If the only team that can beat Georgia is themselves. But then you have a one-loss non-champion. And those other teams that are sitting there, like, why is Michigan State 3? I mean, I like them this week. That's my free pick on our college football show this week, -3 against Purdue. But shouldn't the third-ranked team be favored by like 10 or 11 over Purdue? It's just a mystery to me how they came up with this. You had some good insight, too, about the one-loss teams. And, you can say that a team is better than another. But then you had that key point, and I'll let you take it from here.
Well, I mean, Oregon is ranked above Ohio State right now, so I don't have any complaint there. But I guess what you said with the reason why they put Alabama there is because they want to set it up so that you're going to get two SEC teams. You're not going to get a Pac-12 team, no matter how well Oregon plays. Perhaps it's a conspiracy theory, but it seems pretty clear they don't want Oregon in there. And everybody's going to say, well, Ohio State's better than Oregon, even though Oregon went into Ohio State and beat them. And I could see why you'd say Ohio State's better than Oregon. They have a tough schedule. They play a lot of good teams. But at the end of the day, you can't excuse them for losing at home to Oregon. They should have to live with that. And if they come in with the same record as Oregon and they lost head-to-head at home to Oregon, I think the right thing to do is put Oregon in there.
I can't argue that point. But one thing I will, I'm not debating you at all on it, but how can Wisconsin be ranked after losing to Penn State? And, Penn State also has 3 losses, but their 3 losses, 2 of them against pretty good teams, like Ohio State, for example. The third loss, Illinois, was dreadful. But then we also saw what happened to Iowa, who was ranked as high as number 2 in the AP poll earlier this year, and now they are still ranked. But I don't even know if they were ranked last week in the AP poll. And it just seems like it almost seems like something that's not even worth talking about because it's not going to go that way. For example, Ohio State has to play Michigan and Michigan State yet on the schedule. So that's going to determine a lot of who's going to be in that top 4. Mm-hmm. So if Ohio State destroys Michigan State, and the way Ohio State's playing right now, I don't see how Michigan State can win that game. I will say it now. So then, does that move Ohio State up? Does it move? Does it go against your logic? And Ohio State wins, say, by 17 over the number 3 team. Does that leapfrog them over Oregon? I mean, there's just so much that has to happen yet, and we don't have the results of those games. So it's kind of ludicrous. I mean, the winner of the Georgia-Alabama game.
My answer is I think it does. I think the committee puts Ohio State above Oregon when they start accumulating wins over teams like Michigan and Michigan State. And that there's a lot of logic behind that, but I still don't think it's right to say that Ohio State has the same record, and if they both one-loss teams and they lost to Oregon, I still think you got to pay a price for losing to a team with the same record. I mean, that's the way sports work, right?
Yeah, and especially a conference champion. If you're a conference champion and you have the same number of losses, one, and you lost to another conference champion, then you shouldn't. You're right. You should not be ranked higher.
And at the end of the day, the better team doesn't always win. That's why we watch sports.
Yep, that is
so
true. If they
won every game, nobody would watch.
But at the end of the day, remember, don't use these rankings for handicapping purposes. I use it for a situational. I have a couple database queries that I use it where, let's say a team is ranked 17th. They're playing at home. They're favored by 6 or more against a team that's in the top 10. That actually works. That supports the lower ranked team, meaning the 17th ranked team in my example. But to say that this is the College Football Playoff Committee's power rankings or power ratings, it's not going to help you. It just won't, and it's not done for that purpose anyway. They're not. I'm not putting the process down. Just like for us handicappers and professional bettors, it provides no useful value, and until the end of the year, because then I can use database queries that say, what does the defending or the reigning champion do in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4? How do they play in the first weeks or for the first 2 home games as a double-digit favorite? Stuff like that. Then it becomes a useful piece of data. But right now, it's just it's more likely to infuriate me than anything else in a discussion. So we'll move on to the NFL, and you've been updating me very, very well today on the Green Bay Packers situation. So tell us about that, and share it with everybody.
Well, as you know, I wanted my pick today for the show was supposed to be on the Packers as a pick'em at Kansas City, and I woke up to the phone going off. Aaron Rodgers testing positive for COVID, and I backed out of that bet in a hurry because the line was obviously going to change. And then I've been following up, and the story now is that Rodgers isn't vaccinated against COVID-19, and
that's incredible.
That gives him no chance to return, I guess. And the line's moved to Green Bay plus 7.5, and wow, that's quite a point spread for a team that just went out on the road and beat Arizona without any receivers.
Yeah. So do you like Kansas City at this number?
I don't like anything about Kansas City right now. I mean, they just barely beat the Giants, and
that is true.
I don't know that they should be asked to cover 7.5 against anybody. I mean, Green Bay's still got a monster running back, or a couple of them, in A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I guess my main concern is if Rodgers has COVID, how close has he been to Jones and Adams and everybody else? And I guess Adams is recovering from COVID, so who else is going to go down? Because they can't afford to lose anybody else now.
Yeah, that is true.
But if they come in there with Jordan Love and he can hand off to Aaron Jones, they can run the football like they did last week against Arizona. Asking them to cover 7.5 is not that big of a stretch for me.
Yeah, I agree 100% for sure. The Kansas City to me is a team to avoid until proven otherwise. It's like Dr. Chuck and I were talking on this show yesterday with Akron. Akron has horrid trend statistics, 5-22 against the number when, on just about everything. And they've had, 2.5 losing seasons against the spread that are historic. And I was making the point that, you just don't go out there and bet because, oh my God, they're due to cover. They're just a bad team. And ironically, they covered last night. So you can't trust those trends entirely. But the trends that are working against Kansas City with that it started last year, and somehow they made it to the Super Bowl. But that losing streak started, I think, in week 4 of last year, and they just about ran the table. Well, I would agree with that too.
I mean, you got to remember they came out in the playoffs against Tennessee and gave up 21 points early, or Houston as well. I mean, they gave up a lot of points in the first half and came storming back and won a lot of games that most teams would have lost. And now things aren't really going that way for them. And you know, the skill level of their offense was able to mask a lot of their issues, and now that they're not clicking enough to hide their deficiencies that have been there for a while now.
And I don't have any evidence of this, but I think what happens in the NFL is they figure things out pretty quick. Defensive coordinators, and it's really not rocket science either. If you're playing a team this week, and let's call it Team A, or let's call the Chargers and the Eagles game. So the Chargers are coming to Philadelphia this week as 1.5-point road favorites. The Eagles are coming off a monster game against Detroit. I can't remember the last time they scored more than 40 points. But we also saw Cincinnati destroy Baltimore, only to fall completely flat on their faces against the Jets and allow the Jets a multi-score comeback win. So if I'm the Chargers defensive coordinator, I would be looking at that game film and seeing what the Eagles did differently to the other games previous, and design my whole scheme based on what I'm seeing with my eyes. And I think that's what they've done to Kansas City. You know, Mahomes is multi-dimensional, but you can now prepare for these types of quarterbacks. You know, we've seen, I can't remember the Ravens quarterback's name. It's probably late in the day, but yes. And we've seen him have some really ugly games, and it's because of the defensive preparation that goes on nowadays is so intense and accurate that it works, and it takes away their advantages. You know, and Belichick's known for that. You know, he always looked at the offensive side of the ball and said, "Who's their best guy? Who do I have to minimize? Who do I have to eliminate from scoring points?" And it worked. So I think that's what's going on with Kansas City.
Do you think it's Jesse, the blueprint provided by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, or maybe even before that. I'm trying to think of a game where they didn't do so well, but whatever game that is.
Last year during the regular season by running down their throat, and people said that could have been a blueprint.
I do agree with that. And Mahomes is thrown into traffic, and he doesn't have near the time that he had in years past. You know, he's barely getting 2.2 seconds, whereas I think last year it was, with his scrambling ability, would average over 3. And when he did scramble, he was still completing 65% of his passes on the run. But this year is totally different. And I don't. That defense is bad. So until they show evidence of recovering, maybe similar to how we hated Wisconsin. Well, not hated Wisconsin. We weren't going to bet on Wisconsin because of the way they looked. We knew, like in our shows, we talked about it, that they, on paper, will get better, or they have the potential to get better, but now they are getting better. And you saw what they did last week. You know, now they're playing the way we thought they would play at the beginning of the season. So that's when you start betting them. But you don't try to, like Steve Merrill says, and he learned a lot of financial terms from me, but you never catch a falling knife. That's exactly what Kansas City is now. And, you just don't make a bet saying that it's Mahomes and remember all the great games and seasons that they had in the past, because they're not that team. So that's I probably talked too long about that one. Let's see what else we got here. Why don't you talk a little bit about your English premiere? Did I say that right? The English way to say it? The accent on the second syllable? Yeah, because you're kicking butt in that, and I wanted you to share that with the the viewers. So stage is
Well,
yours.
I usually put out one or two plays a week only on a Saturday or Sunday for the Premier League. And a lot of the time I focus on totals. The last few weeks I've focused on totals. Um, Done quite well with that. I think I am 11-3 overall for the season with Premier League, which is
It's awesome.
small sample size, but like I say, it's one or two plays a week. And for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I've had a similar winning percentage. So it goes well. And there's a big match coming up this week between Manchester United and Manchester City that I'm looking forward to. And I'll probably have a play on the total in that game.
Awesome. What do you just out of curiosity? How do you go about handicapping those games? Because I don't cover soccer. I do shows where I'm the host on soccer shows. But I'd be curious to know, and I think the listeners would too, and the viewers. What when you look at a game, what initially sticks out?
You want to catch a team that's on form because these teams have their ups and downs throughout the season. The fitness of players is really key. Every team's got a handful of star players, and it's rare to see them all suit up every game. There's different guys are going to have their knocks throughout the year. Historical matchups, trends. How does one team style play against another team's style? Coaching matchups. Weather conditions is another one. They play in the pissing down rain in the UK, and you don't want to have an over on the total when in the driving rain and wind. It's not a good idea. So, I mean, there's a variety of things to look at. I do get some help from my son, who's a more passionate football fan than myself.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, I know this is elementary, but if there are people that are, there's more new time bettors or people that are interested in betting, describe for them the three-way bet line, I believe it's called, where you have the odds to win for both teams, and you have a draw. And just take a minute to explain that at the beginning level.
Well, I mean, it's as simple as you just stated it. Your team has to win in regulation in 90 minutes on the three-way betting line. So after it goes past 90 minutes of regulation, if it goes to a shootout or an added period of time, which a lot of tournament betting games have overtime periods or shootouts in things like Champions League or different various cup competitions that they have. And that's when it seems to come into play even more, the draw. And you really want to avoid the three-way line as much as possible, because there are a lot of draws that will come up, and it's a bad way to lose. I prefer to you still have available to you the money line, where a draw is a push in certain games. If it's a fairly even matchup, you'll have a choice. You might have a team that's minus 110 on the three-way line, and you'd have to pay an extra $50 or $60 to get them on the money line. And a lot of times you're better off doing that to avoid losing on a draw.
Gotcha.
Draws are very common.
That's for sure. I know some of the totals can get crazy too. Like there was one in the one championship game several months ago. Where I think the game total was 2.5.
And both teams is a pretty common number. You can see them as low as 1.5 or 1 3/4 as well.
What's the difference between 1.5 and 1 3/4?
Okay, 1.5. If there's 2 goals, you win all your bet, right? You bet $100, you win $100. If you bet over 1.5 and it's a 2-goal game. 1 3/4, 50 of your 100 would go to 1.5, and 50 of your 100 would go to 2. So if there's 2 goals scored, your 100 only pays out on 50 and pushes on 50.
I never knew that. So I just learned something pretty key, because I've seen it, but I never really took the time to look at it. And
it's becoming more and more common with not just totals, but also point spreads. You'll see uh, big favorites will be minus 1.25 or minus 1 3/4. And again, when you get to the quarter, it's always a split bet to the nearest decimal, right? So if it's 3/4, one is going to be the next number, and 1/2 is going to be on the 1.5 or 2.5 or what have you.
Yep. Yep. That's good stuff. See, I mean, it's what the shows are all about. I just learned something that's pretty darn important if I ever want to do soccer. That's a pretty cool way to bet. Half your bet over, and then half your bet over the next number.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think it
almost
was all
like
that
in-game
common
betting.
a few years back, but it's becoming more and more common.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool stuff. That's got my mind thinking about, if they did that in the NBA totals, but obviously not the next point up, but every 10. Like 210 and 3/4 would be 50% over 210 and 50% over 220. But I'm just
Speaking of
spitballing.
NBA totals, the scoring is down in the NBA this year, isn't it?
It is. It's like last I checked was 109 per game, and I can look that up on the omnipotent database. Let's see here. There we are. This will just take a second, but it'll be fun to look at because 2017 we saw a big jump from basically 106 per game up to 111 and a half, and it kind of grinded up each successive year to a peak of 112.4 last season. So let's see your seasons. Well, we're averaging 107.8. So when I looked at it at 109, that was basically Thursday of last week. So there must have been a lot of unders since then to drive that down to 107. So that's a big time move. Charlotte is number one.
Last year, the New York Knicks led the league in opponent scoring, allowing 104.7 points per game. So far this year, 10 teams are allowing fewer than that number. So 10 teams are allowing fewer points than the best defensive team in the league last year.
That is really interesting. Do you have a list of those 10?
I do not. I did not list them, but I know a few of them offhand. I believe the Raptors, the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz. Yeah, there's a handful for you, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, and currently right now the Hornets are averaging 117.5 per game, which immediately tells me that when you have to scroll down the list to find Brooklyn, holy mackerel, Brooklyn is 20th.
Well, apparently the new rules on players trying to initiate fouls has really been hard on James Harden. Poor guy. Hate to see it happen to a guy like him.
Yeah. I mean, so many times he got to the charity stripe for the wrong reasons.
I sure hope that they continue calling it that way, though, because for fans, I think it's a much better game to watch when you got to earn your points.
I agree.
Or at least for fans in my demographic that grew up watching Jordan play the Pistons, it's more enjoyable to watch when you have to earn your baskets.
Yep, that's good. And in the NBA, I have a 2-minute quick hitter that was just posted before we went on the air. It's pinned to my profile page. I don't want to give it away. I want the people to go over and see it for themselves. It's 2 minutes and it's over, and it's fun. I enjoy those things immensely. You have to get it into a rhythm when you do them, though, Jesse, because you can. You have to keep looking at the clock because the max you can have is 220. Otherwise, you can't embed it in a tweet.
Gotcha.
But it's easier. Somehow, it's easier than going to YouTube, for example. It's easier for followers and people looking for free picks to find it, I guess, as opposed to on YouTube. But whatever. I do like the Sixers tonight too. They're playing Chicago, and we can talk about that one just briefly. The Sixers, and this has nothing to do with the Ben Simmons suspension. But Doc Rivers has the players that are playing well as a team. And I don't. Again, no, it's not because he's not there, and that's simple. The Sixers had moments like this last year, and it was only towards the end of the season that they started unraveling, and it ended ugly. But they had 6 scorers in double digits in their last win. They had 5 in the loss before that, and Chicago comes in hot. And you and I and Tony Finn and the rest of the guys have talked about Chicago being the team under the radar. I know Rob Vino likes that futures bet quite a bit, as well as I do. And I think it was 42.5. I think it was 42.5. They had to go 43 and 39. 4 games over 500. Well, they already basically have that covered. And it's very early in the season, I get it, but they're 6-1. And they are playing well. It's kind of like a surprise with the Miami Heat doing as well as they are. The Heat are playing like they're the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. And things change over an 82-game season. But Philadelphia here, at -2, you had Embiid, who needed his rest day. So seriously, that should help. Tobias Harris remains out because of COVID-19. But the way they're distributing the ball, it's like watching the San Antonio Spurs back in their heyday. Crisp passing, looking for the open guy, unselfish shooting, and they're really, really playing well. And I'd be surprised tonight if they don't cover the 2 points, because Chicago does come flying in here pretty hot.
Best home team in the NBA last year, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe even the last 2 years.
Yep. There's a little angle here. Betting on home teams with a betting line of 3 points on either side of pick, 3.5 on either side of pick. Coming off a 3-game span where they beat the total by 20 or more points. And the game taking place in the first half of the season. 60 and 18 with 2 pushes against the number the last 5 seasons. That's 78% winners. And there you go. That's a pretty good bet on Philadelphia tonight, -2. You agree with that? And you're allowed to tell me I'm nuts. You are allowed to tell me I'm nuts.
I hadn't looked at that game before you mentioned it, but I know the Bulls are playing well, but they, you got to figure that they're not going to keep winning all their games. In a tough spot on the road against, like I say, the best home team in the league the last 2 years. Not 100% sure about that, but I think it's got to be close to that. And yeah, Embiid coming off rest. I mean, the line's only 2. It should probably be 3.5. Based on how well Philly's played in Philly.
Yep, I agree. And they're scoring 112 a game, I believe. Where are they? They're 8th in the league at 112.1, but. Again, I say this to be comical, because it is so ironic and it's not sustainable. But their free throw percentage is 2nd in the league to the Bulls. Actually, they're almost exactly tied. But the Sixers are making 86.6% of their free throw attempts, and the Bulls 86.8%. Let's see, free throws. Bulls are getting to the line more, so that's even more impressive. They're averaging 18.7. makes on 21.6 attempts. Philadelphia Sixers are 18.1 attempts and 15.7 made. And that's pretty darn good. Worst team in the league, in case you wanted to know, San Antonio Spurs. Well, that's not going to make Popovich very happy. 66.4, and they're the lowest scoring team in the league. No, they're not. They're averaging 110. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line item.
Pretty sure Popovich has seen better days. I think it's time for him to pass the torch.
Before the torch
come in there and take over.
he's been there so long that the flame is just about ready to burn his hand.
Hmm.
But what a career! I mean, man alive.
Yeah, I was a big Spurs fan during their dynasty, but they haven't looked anything close to that the last few years.
That's true. And just one other thing here on the Sixers. There's a statistic that coaches use that's pretty common. It's called the offensive four factors and defensive four factors. And I'll just go through the top teams right now. The Sixers are number one in effective field goal percentage at 57.1. And second is the Knicks at 55.8. So although the Sixers are not the highest scoring team in the league based on effective field goal percentage, they're getting the right looks. And that's what I was talking about with that ball distribution that I've been seeing in recent games. The turnover percentage, that's an estimate of turnovers committed per 100 plays. The Sixers are 12.7, which is excellent. But number one is the Clippers at 10.7. So the Sixers are 13th in that category. Offensive rebound percentage, an estimate of the percentage of available offensive rebounds that a player can grab if he was on the floor. So that's a composite total. The Toronto Raptors are the best offensive rebounding team at 29.8. And the Sixers are right in the middle of the pack. They're average at that. But that is also a reflection of the fact that they're making so many of their shots. When you make a shot, there is no chance for an offensive rebound. And then another stat I like, free throws per field goal attempt. This ratio, after we get through the first 20 games, will start providing value in my handicapping. And the top team is Utah Jazz, .229, so that's 22.9% of their attempts come from the free throw line. So it's simply free throws attempted divided by field goals attempted, both 2 and 3-pointers, obviously. So that's just a little rundown of the four factors. I found that to be helpful over the years in handicapping some of these games, especially the college level. What else should we talk about, Jesse?
Best bet for NFL this week?
All right. I have a funny feeling you like that New England-Carolina matchup.
Well, I was really excited to talk about the Kansas City Green Bay game, but we had to call an audible at the last minute, and I had a quick look at that New England game, and I don't actually like betting on teams coming off big wins that were upset wins on the road, in normal circumstances. But Carolina's also coming off a win where they didn't play particularly well. Darnold, I think he only threw for 129 yards, just over 50% passing. He didn't throw for a touchdown pass. They relied on Chuba Hubbard, who, he's been okay, Hubbard, but he's only averaging 3.6 yards per carry in an offense where he's getting a lot of action. And 3.6 yards per carry is well below average for a starting running back. And they just don't have a lot of offensive weapons. And against that Green Bay defense, I think they come up short by a lot more than 4 points.
I do too. I definitely agree with that. I'm just going through the chat room.
Mac Jones under Bill Belichick, he seems like he's getting better every week.
Yeah, that pick couldn't have fell in their laps any better. And, it's not fair to compare him to Tom Brady, but he has a football IQ that Rob Vino shared with us before the draft even, that really is really incredible. Like, he had the playbook memorized within 4 days in the Senior Bowl, and the coach said that he was able to call audibles at the line of scrimmage. I mean, it's a Senior Bowl, but still, the fact that he knew the playbook that quickly, and I think that's what's going on with
wasn't
the Patriots
teaching Cam Newton the playbook?
Well, I don't know. I don't think too many people learn as fast as Mac Jones does.
I think
from what
there
you
was
hear,
rumors that Mac Jones was teaching Cam Newton the playbook, and that was one of the factors in releasing Cam Newton. Was when the rookie knew the playbook better than you do, it's time for you to go.
Yeah, that'd be at the pro level. The skin you would think gets thicker on these players, but it doesn't, and that's unfortunate. But the egos get in the way. But the Manny's Pub, I just noticed we got a. I forgot to I didn't have time to leave the studio and get over to the pub, so that's why the background doesn't look like a pub. But it's impossible for Jesse to get to the pub because he's like 3,500 miles away. But it's pretty cool what technology can do today too. What was I going to say? I know Max on Record likes to talk to PGA, but the event tomorrow was not on my radar. But I don't want to. I could quick run the model while we talk about something else, but probably not necessary to do, really. DraftKings. Speaking of PGA Tour, betting gods. I say this humbly, but I came in 18th in an NFL DraftKings event, and it was the most exciting thing yet in the DFS. And it was a $50 entry one. I think it was like 30,000 entries. But yeah, you sit there, and then in times past, like in PGA majors, when I actually forget what event it was. I think it was the Masters. Nah, it was U.S. Open. It was U.S. Open, and on a Sunday afternoon, I turned it on, and the leaderboard had all 6 guys in my lineup. And I turned it off because I thought I would jinx myself and lose. But this time was the first time I actually had the courage, Jesse, to sit there and go through the emotional roller coaster that can be. And I definitely could not do that every single week. Because I know some people, they just love it, and that's great. And they watch every game on the Red Zone channel, and, that's cool. But I have to admit, if Brady connects, on that last drive, I probably would have been in second or third. And then that's where the cheesecake really lies. You do well at 18th, but it's tiered for the top guy, and the next 2 then are, significantly lower in prize money. But it was a blast. So my models are actually learning because the performance of them has gotten better and better, really over the years. And it's kind of fun to play with that. Maybe on Friday I'll do the list of players that will be in my lineups. That way people can do what they do in golf. When I do the lineup, you can make lineups from that list, and there's got to some combination of those players is going to work real well. And of course, not all of them are going to work at all. But it's just when you have 20 players, you can't get every single possible combination because it would be a lot of numbers. A lot of lineups. It would probably be into the tens of thousands of lineups, and you just could not do that. But somewhere in that list is the Holy Grail. John Ryan's in the chat room, I see. So let me see what else we had on the menu. We did the NBA. We did your NFL. We did the English Premier. You seen anything tonight in MACtion?
I had a quick glance, and I had a slight lean toward both underdogs, and that's an indication that I'm perhaps not as up to date as I should be in the MAC. But I couldn't justify either of those favorites being favorites.
Yeah, I think the market now, looking at season by season, you used to always bet the over in those games. If you were going to bet at all, it would be the over. If you just didn't bet the under. But that like last year and the year before, Buffalo was averaging like 50 points a game, and I'm not exaggerating. That's where they were. But now it seems the market has overshot the conference and where they are now. So I like that thought quite a bit. It's kind of time to be contrarian, I think, in the MACtion. And for those that don't know, that's the Mid-American Conference, and they just call it instead of the MACtion bets, they nicknamed it the Action. I'm sorry, the MACtion. I have a play tonight. It's a premium one over at SportsMemo.com. Running pretty hot right now in the college football ranks and streaks, both long term and short term. It's only $9. So hopefully I price things based on the cost of an IPA and a good one. I know there's towns out there where you can get an IPA probably for $6, but I made it $9 because then you clearly are expecting a very good experience drinking that beer. And I hope that this experience for $9, getting this bet, is an equally good experience. What do you have going on tonight, Jesse, or later this week at Sports Memo?
I have one NHL total, and I have one NBA total going on tonight.
That's good stuff. And as you can tell, and I always say this cautiously, you can tell he's from Canada. And I've always had the greatest respect for people that love the sport of hockey that originated from Canada, because a few decades ago, there was the Montreal Canadiens and Guy Lafleur. Those guys dominated, and that was obviously a lot younger then, but it stuck with me that Canadians really know how to play this game. Let's see.
Hockey's on the rise in America these days, though. I mean, it seems like it's never been as popular as it is now. Maybe not where you're at, but certainly in some. I mean, it's a big hit in Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, they love the Golden Knights in Vegas.
It's hard to believe you can have an ice rink in 120-degree weather. I guess it must be indoors, huh? Well, the world we live in, I'm sure there's a sign. No, they wouldn't last very long. Have you? You haven't been to the new football stadium yet, have you?
No, I drove by it when it was being built a couple of years ago when I was down there for the Super Bowl. But under the current situation, it's not so great traveling south of the border right now.
Yeah, true. So I guess we'll end it here to recap our best bets for the show. Let's see. I recommended the Philadelphia 76ers, and that actually is it qualifies as a 4-unit bet. It's a premium bet. We don't just give out picks for the sake of giving out picks when we get together. And we want to give you our best, and we want everybody to win, including ourselves. And Jesse, you had
New England -4.
Yes, New England -4, and I have the Sixers -2. You can also use the money line if you want, as long as it's not 2.5. And it might go to 2.5, but then you bet -2.5. But -2 or less, I would do the money line actually. And I think that's about all we covered, right? In terms of best bets.
That's right. I was mentioning that I'm leaning towards taking the Packers +7.5. So if you want to chalk that up as a 2-unit play, go ahead.
Sure. And you can update us later in the week too in the comments section. So if you guys do have questions and about what we're talking about, by all means reach out to us and we'll get back to you. And that's something you can count on. And not many shows actually do that. But we certainly will try to do it 100%. All right, well, that'll conclude today's show. Thanks for everybody in the chat room that is watching this thing live. I know a lot of you were worried that the pub was temporarily closed for remodeling. It hasn't been. It just has been scheduling. And if you go to WagerTalk and SportsMemo TV on the YouTube channels, you see the monster amount of really high-quality, usable betting information that is produced by those teams and we're all united as one big family. So that is what creates the scheduling problem now that we have all these different leagues in motion, and it'll probably get tougher with college basketball. But we'll zig and zag. We'll be there for you as long as you are interested in the shows. We'll keep doing them. Well, we're not done yet. Hey, Tony Mejia.
What's going on?
I was just going to sign off, but I saw you pop in, and you certainly are qualified and noteworthy enough to at least give us a free pick if you want.
Sure. I was just on the NBA tip-off show pinch hitting, and then I've got to go pick up my daughter at a volleyball game, so fit you right in there at a little visit to the sports pub. Let's talk Blazers and the Cavaliers. Portland is laying 5.5 on the road, trying to get a win because they've gotten beat by your 76ers despite being shorthanded the other night. And what was the other game they lost? At Charlotte earlier in the week. And they haven't played a lick of defense since beating the Clippers 111-92. That was my first 5% win of the season at WagerTalk. I'm on 1-0. And that was the only game that they showed up for. Thankfully, they let Paul George look like Michael Jordan, but they clamped down on everybody else. Battling he win. Cleveland's dealing with a case of COVID. Despite the fact that they had a 100% vaccination rate, Kevin Love went down earlier in the week, and Lauri Markkanen is down now. They also don't have Isaac Okoro. So it's a spot where the Blazers, if they want to get a win before getting back home, certainly can. And then they've got the Pacers and the Lakers at home before facing the Clippers, Suns, Rockets, and Nuggets on the road in a 4 or 5 day span. So there's a little bit of a sense of urgency to get it going. I saw Damian Lillard say that the struggle is somewhat beautiful because he enjoys righting the ship and getting himself back together. He's been as affected as Trae Young and other small guards in terms of not getting calls at the rim and all these under trends that we've been seeing with the change in officiating. So I think he gets it going. CJ McCollum now, back in that area. He's from Pennsylvania, but East Coast. So I think the Blazers are the way to go tonight.
That's awesome. I like the pick. And have you met Jesse Schule yet?
Have I met him?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was dumb.
Yes. Hey, Jess. What's up?
That was
You're
dumb.
looking sharp today, Tony.
Doing all right. Like I said, lots to do, but, with Champions League and all that stuff also. But, since I'm set up, I figured I'd see if you guys were still hanging around here.
Well, I appreciate you stopping in for the 5 minutes, and you're going to be off getting your daughter. And I was right before you came on, I was just explaining to everybody, because a few of the guys were worried that the pub was either closed or closed for remodeling or whatever. And it's just been the scheduling, and this time of year, between WagerTalk and SportsMemo, I told everybody to go check out those channels. It's just a wealth of high quality, usable sports betting information, period. And that's what makes it tough to get everybody together like we did during the months of like July and August. And
Sure.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah, and then college basketball begins next week, so it's like you can't really commit to anything because you don't know what the schedules are going to be and how taxing it's going to be until the end of football season. So, got to mix in writing for WagerTalk news and whatnot. So it's been busy, certainly. How's everything going with both of you guys?
Going good. I'm enjoying the Champions League lately. We just watched Milan tie against Porto. And for some reason, Zlatan was on the bench for the entire first half and the majority of the game. But he almost won it for them. He scored a goal and with 5 minutes left or something. It was offside, though. So Milan
I was a loser on that over because of that call. So
I was going to be on the over and I was going to be on Milan. I was looking at, should I take AC Milan? Should I take the over? But I was unsure about the status of Zlatan, so that's what made me just say, screw it, I'm going to stay away. So I got lucky.
Yeah, sometimes you got to make sure who's in the lineup. And with soccer, it's
Well, they don't announce it until just before game time, right?
Yep, exactly. How about you, John? Everything good?
Yeah, the gridiron is rolling again this year. That just seems to be my niche. I'm long term, over the last 210 NFL and NCAA football best bets, my ROI is 123.2. Short term, 78% over the last 10. With it's a 8-1-1 record.
Gotcha.
The last 10, and then 62% the last 90 in the NFL with 4 and 5 unit best bets. Totals are running at 71% this year, so I'm grateful. You know, the shows that we do with Jesse and Dr. Chuck and Don Buster and Rocky Atkinson, 2 separate shows, 2 each for college football and the NFL, and we hit that triple bogey that I talk about. There's 18 weeks in the NFL. There's 18 holes in golf, and even the best professionals in golf get that double bogey once in a while. And
Oh yeah.
we did. I think we did like a 4-9 combined record, but prior to that, we were running what we were running, Jesse, 77%,
Something along
which is
those
really not
lines.
sustainable.
We did.
Yeah,
bounce
I think
back nicely last week though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the Dr. Chuck, Jesse Schule, and myself hosting it, we went 3-0, and overall we were 4-2 for the week as a trio. So just trying to teach people, Tony, that there's going to be those weeks where you look like you've never bet before in your life and you don't know what you're doing, and the betting gods feel like they're against you and hate you. But you gotta have you gotta make the whole NFL season or any season that you're betting, like English Premier. The bet is the season. It's a culmination of all the little bets that grind into a significant profit by the end of the year.
That's the goal.
Rome
John,
wasn't built in a day.
if our performance looked like a stock chart, we would have been going up, 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 steep drop, and then a slight climb up again. Is that a strong buy on a chart?
Yeah.
That would be buying the dip. That
Yeah.
would be truly buying the dip, and
So you wait for the
that's a
dip
great
to end
point.
before you start buying the dip, right?
Yep, and for those that have never bought a subscription, if somebody's running hot, it probably does make sense to get a 7-day as opposed to a full season, and then just it's going to cost you the same amount of money, but you could also wait and observe. And everybody in the world that is honest about this thing has that dip, and it might run 2 or 3 weeks in the NFL as a whole, but that's where you would get the best value in pro bettors like ourselves, and that's my opinion. If somebody's telling you that they're hitting 78% for the last 2 years, you should run away from that.
Yeah.
If somebody's saying they hit 58% over the last 2 or 3 seasons combined, that is outstanding, and that's the reality. That's the fact.
I've got one more thing to run by you before I leave because I got about 5 minutes. This is my lineup for the PGA Pin Seeker. I don't even know what it is, but I entered the contest. So here we go. I got Zalatoris, Pereira, Koepka, Malnati, Hatton, and Varner. Who sucks?
I can't argue with it. I actually didn't run my model yet because I was telling them in the chat room I was going to possibly post it as a comment later tonight.
All right. No immediate red flags?
No,
Okay.
and I like Pereira. How do you do that?
Pereira.
I wish I
very
could talk
good.
like that. It sounds cool. Jesse's accent's cool. You can do that. I just sit here.
Wait a minute, I don't have an accent. What are you talking
It's a
about,
pleasant
John?
one.
You have an accent.
All right, boys. Well, a pleasure. I'll
Yeah.
see you probably next week some point. So
Yeah, we're gonna sign off now anyway. So on behalf of Tony, thanks for your time. Jesse, the same. Myself, SportsMemo.com, WagerTalk.com, and the predictive playbook shows like this one. May all the wins be yours. Thanks for watching, guys.